Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bakaya. Here are the day's top stories. China steps up military rhetoric ahead of U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. Stock markets tumble across Shanghai, Tokyo and Hong Kong. Back home, Dalal Street shows resilience. Sensex Nifty extend winning run to a fifth straight day, aided by power and FMCG stocks. The Indian rupee is the best performing Asian currency after biggest one-day rally in 16 months. Weak dollar demand, rise in FPI inflows aid the rebound. Big relief ahead for consumers at the petrol pump. Crude oil hits a 4-month low in global markets, trades below $100 mark. Some reports see it fall to $70 on fears of global recession. It's a big Business Today TV exclusive. 5G services likely to be rolled out by telecom operators before Diwali. Analysts say the 88,000 crores paid by Reliance will enable it to roll out the smoothest of networks. Crude oil prices have hit a 4-month low in global markets, trading below the $100 level. This just a day ahead of the OPEC Plus meet tomorrow, which will determine whether to increase supply. A bleak outlook for fuel demand has played spoilsport on crude, which has been on the up move since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. My colleague Sakshi Batra joins us. Sakshi, what's happening in the crude market and how is it going to impact India?
Well, that's right. Crude oil prices are finally moving south. Now, the U.S. crude benchmark dropped to near $92 a barrel, its weakest since July 14. Also, the Brent crude prices and the futures were seen trading near $99 a barrel. Remember, it's fallen from $106 to $99 in just the last 4 days. Now, oil had consistently remained above the $100 a barrel mark since February this year, when Brent also, reaching to its close to its all-time high levels of $147 a barrel in March, due to the Russia-Ukraine war and the supply concerns. So what's really causing the crude oil fall right now? A couple of reasons for that. One, there is a mounting fear over recession across US and Europe. There's dwindling global demand. There's China's restriction on COVID that has slowed the production. The supply situation is better right now. US reserves and inventories are building up. And also now there is nervousness ahead of the big OPEC Plus meeting tomorrow, where the world's biggest producers of oil will hold a crucial meeting to decide how much oil they might want to add to the market from September. That could again impact the prices going forward from here. So where are the crude oil prices headed from here is a big question. Well, we have got contrasting reports on that so far. If you talk about the Citigroup analysts, they believe that crude oil could actually collapse to $65 a barrel by the end of this year and slump to $45 by the end of 2023 if a demand-crippling recession really hits the world. On the other hand, JP Morgan analysts have actually said that global oil prices could reach a stratospheric $380 a barrel if the US and European sanctions on Russia prompted to inflict retaliatory crude prices or crude output cuts. Now, analysts at Bank of America researchers, they have actually said that the Brent, they have laid out two scenarios. In the event of a recession in 2023, they see the crude oil really averaging at $75 a barrel. In contrast, they believe that Brent crude can actually jump to $150 if the European sanctions really slam the Russian supplies. Now, our falling crude prices, really good news for us in India. Well, lower crude prices would mean lower import bill for India, as around 85% of our annual consumption of oil gets fulfilled only by imported crude. Now, this would also ease the pressure on the country's fiscal position, the current account deficit, and prices of many major commodities, including the natural gas, subsidized goods like fertilizers, are all linked to oil. So the common man ultimately stands to benefit, as it could ultimately lead to lower inflationary pressures. So your FMCG goods, your fast-moving consumer products, your prices of petrol and diesel could cool off, and your air tickets could also get cheaper. And in hope of that, that's what we are believing that the crude oil prices may actually do.
Thank you for that, Sakshi. The Indian rupee, meanwhile, is on a recovery path. Under immense pressure against the greenback this entire year, the rupee has rallied smartly in the past 4 trading sessions, gaining as much as 119 paise versus the US dollar. The Indian currency rose by 31 paise in today's trade alone, closing at 78.71. That's its highest level in a month. For the why, how, and the impact of this newfound strength, we have with us Mr. Srinivasan, Vice President of McLeod Financial. Mr. Srinivasan, given the recovery in just 4 days, what would you say is happening? What are the factors at play, and what's the outlook now on the rupee?
See, there are several factors that have affected the markets, global markets as well as the Indian markets. The first to start with was the falling bond yields in the US. We have seen the 10-year bond yields. That normally we see that as a benchmark. It went up to 3.46% about 3 or 4 months back. It's now trading around 2.7%. So the market, it reflects what the market is thinking. And we have seen an inversion in the yield curve of the US. Normally, an inversion for a longer period is an indication that probably down the road, 8 to 9 months down the road, US might slip into recession. This actually was supported by a view from IMF saying that global economy is on the verge of recession. I mean, the risk is more towards a recession. This is what they have made a trigger. So as a result of that, it was followed by the US GDP number, which actually came in negative, 0.9% negative quarter growth. So we have seen two consecutive quarters. The flash estimate is negative, and the previous one was minus 1.6%. So which has actually increased the talk of a recession in the US. So now, coming next to the FOMC meeting, the FOMC meeting, as expected, 75 basis point rate hike has been delivered. But the Fed chairman said very clearly, we have delivered two unusually large rate hikes. So the effect will take a little more time. One. Second, he also mentioned one point that spending has started coming off. So it means that the Fed is actually trying to be very cautious instead of being very hawkish. So this has actually caused a rollback in expectations from market players that the Fed may not be that aggressive as they were earlier thinking. So as a result of that, dollar liquidation has started, and commodity prices have already come off, and dollar liquidation has started. And on the other side, we have seen a European Central Bank starting to raise interest rates, and Bank of England has also started raising interest rates. All these things are happening. So the dollar index has started reversing more than 5%. It has reversed from 109.20 or something like that, and it has come below 105 now. So that has caused one change in the view on the dollar. And from our side, we have seen investors coming back to the stock markets on one side. On the last 2 days, we have seen some inflows into the 5G option, towards the 5G option. And some talk that major investor is coming into one of the local banks. This is also pushing the dollar rupee down. So this has been the cause of the dollar rupee reversal over these days. And one more thing we have noticed with since we have been talking to so many clients, many of them have been made to believe that the rupee will go to 81 and 82 level. So exporters have not gone into the hedging mode, whereas importers have mostly, I mean, they are hedged, and very few of them are not hedged. So this has caused a one-sided reaction in the market that has pushed the dollar rupee down. Now, to set the trend going, we have seen oil prices are also trying to correct now. We have seen that the last 4 weeks, the oil prices, week on week basis, the oil prices have been closing lower. So that is another positive thing for the rupee.
Sure.
If another $10 or $15 the oil prices go down, then we can see the rupee falling further. That we have to wait and see.
All
And dollar
right.
rupee falling further, to be technically correct.
All right, Mr. Srinivasan, thanks so much for joining us with that comprehensive look at all the factors affecting the currency. Remember, we also have the RBI policy meet coming up later this week for further indications on what may happen next. There's been no collapse in the Indian rupee. That's what Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman was at pains to convey to the upper house of parliament this morning. Replying to opposition allegations that the rupee has plummeted in the last few months, the finance minister said a strong dollar was an international phenomenon and the rupee has in fact strengthened against most global currencies.
Indian rupees fluctuations are more versus the dollar, the US dollar. And even there, the performance of the Indian rupee is much better than its own peers. We've withstood the impact of the US Fed's decisions much better than any other peer currencies. And actually, if you compare Indian rupee versus other currencies, it's appreciating in its value. So let us please understand the context and speak about the Indian rupee. There's no collapse, sir. Honorable member, I would like to assure you, through you, sir, there is no collapse of the Indian rupee. And also to speak about the reserves coming down. As of 22nd July, it was at 571.56 billions reserves. And therefore, it's not a small amount. Yes, some, when it was in the range of 600, and now it's come down to in the range of higher ends of 500, 571 and so on, they're still comfortably placed.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman also stoutly defended a comment made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat in 2013. The comment was cited by the opposition in Rajya Sabha as it tried to corner the government on the issue of a weak rupee.
जब माननीय मुख्यमंत्री गुजरात तब की इंडियन करेंसी के ऊपर उनके अपने बयान दिए, इसलिए दिए कि बाकी सभी पैरामीटर्स के ऊपर भी भारत देश का हालात बहुत गंभीर परिस्थिति में आ गए, फ्रजाइल 5 में ले आए, इकोनॉमी फ्रजाइल 5 में एक हो गया था। तब की मुख्यमंत्री गुजरात और अब की प्रधानमंत्री जी तब ये बयान देने का कारण क्या है? इकोनॉमी में डबल डिजिट इन्फ्लेशन 22 महीने तक चला और कोई रुकावट नहीं था उसमें। फ्रजाइल 5 इकोनॉमी हो गया था उस समय और भारत देश का इकोनॉमिक सिर्फ वो टेपर ट्रांटम के वजह से इतना गंभीर हालत पहुंचे। आज देख लीजिए, पैंडेमिक है, पैंडेमिक से रिकवरी है, सेकेंड वेव है, ओमिक्रॉन है, यूक्रेन रशिया वॉर है, पूरे दुनिया के सप्लाई चेन टप पड़ा हुआ है, भारत देश का करेंसी अभी बरकरार और स्ट्रांग रह रही है, उसको ध्यान रखिए अमृतकाल में।
Indian equities ended Tuesday's trading session with gains for the 5th straight day, with Nifty at a near 4-month high. Sensex up 21 points, settling at 58,136, and the Nifty closing at 17,345. Among the major gainers today, IndusInd Bank, Asian Paints, NTPC, Hindustan Unilever and Maruti. Meanwhile, UPL shares slumped more than 3.6%. Hero Moto, SBI Life, Britannia, Hindalco, some of the other major laggards. The rupee, as we've been discussing, hit a 1-month high on the back of a weak dollar demand and also rise in FPI inflows. Telecom operators have dished out more than 1.5 trillion rupees to get hold of 5G spectrum, with Reliance Jio betting the largest amount, more than 88,000 crore rupees on the new technology. But when will consumers get the benefit of 5G? How much will the service cost? Will it be smoother and better than 4G? Business Today TV managing editor Siddharth Rabi finds out in conversation with Analysis Masons Rohit Dhameja.
Who will be the best builder of 5G networks in India, Rohan?
The answer to that is pretty simple, Siddharth. The best builder of 5G will be the operator that's gotten the best raw materials in terms of spectrum. And without a doubt, the emphatic answer to that is that Jio has gotten the most amount, both in terms of quantum as well as the best quality of spectrum. So Jio has acquired by far the most comprehensive spectrum portfolio in this recently concluded auction. And let me explain that a little further, Siddharth. I'll try getting not too technical, but given the subject matter. So there are basically two to three key 5G bands. There is the C band, which provides capacity, which all three operators have gotten. The Vodafone has gotten only in selected circles. But Airtel and Jio both have gotten in quite a lot of bulk quantity across India. But then there is the Rolls Royce of all spectrum bands, which is the 700 megahertz band. Yeah. And Jio is the only of the three Indian operators that has gotten that 700 megahertz band, which basically means that Jio not only has C band, but also has that absolutely world-class, best-in-class 700 megahertz band, which as a raw material to build this 5G digital highway, and hence will be the best builder amongst all operators. And of course, if there is interest, happy to explain why the 700 is considered the Rolls Royce of
Exactly, that was my question, because you took a car automotive example, but coming back to land, is this land in South Delhi versus somewhere on a highway towards Alwar? Is that the difference?
It's actually in Lutyens, Delhi versus somewhere on the highway, without taking the name of a particular highway. It's the difference is that stark, Siddharth. And let me explain the difference a little bit. So just by the law of physics, a low frequency band, yeah. So 700 being lower than the 3.3 gigahertz band, which is also called the C band, a low frequency band penetrates indoors inside a building much better than a high frequency band does. Yeah. What that means is that when a mobile consumer is sitting inside his house, if he has a Jio connection which offers a service on a 700 megahertz band, he will get a much better signal and a much better customer experience and much better data speed indoors than he would on any other operator's signal, because the other operators don't have that low band. Yeah. So back in the day, if you remember, sometimes sitting indoors or sometimes sitting in the basement, very often when it was still a voice world, consumers never used to get signal in the basement or when they were probably really inside their house, right? Similarly, in a 5G world, unless you have the 700 megahertz band, your coverage and customer experience indoors will be very poor. And Jio, being the only one that has the 700 megahertz band, will be able to provide the best-in-class, world-class indoor coverage and customer experience vis-a-vis the other operators.
The country's largest homegrown car manufacturer, Maruti Suzuki India, has recorded sales of over 1.75 lakh units in July 2022, an increase of 8.28% year-on-year. My colleague Chetan Bhutani caught up with Shashank Srivastava, Senior ED at Maruti Suzuki. Listen in to what he had to say about the auto sector revving up.
Tell us about the numbers. 1.75 lakh units sold in July. What is your outlook for the numbers going ahead, and what really led to that 7 to 8% growth?
Overall, the industry seems to have done really well. 342,000 is the highest ever monthly numbers for the industry ever. And that is compares very favorably with last year's 295,000. So it's like a 16% growth over last year. Right. So good the numbers, even and definitely that reflects easing of the problem of production vis-a-vis the semiconductor issue, and we are currently at around 95% of the issue solved in that sense. So wholesale numbers look good, although I must say in the last 4 months the retail have been lower than wholesale. So there is some buildup of the stock within the network, but still very small compared with the normal long-term average of stock that we see in the industry.
Shashank, how is the shortage of semiconductors, and is the pressure on profits still there, or inflationary issues are still there for the company?
So semiconductor, on the semiconductor, it's getting better. Last year we were at about 40% at the bottom in September last year, 40% of our plant production. But now we are around that 95% mark. Clearly, we're still not at 100%. And I don't expect it at 100% in August or in September. So this problem will continue in this quarter as well. But at a much higher level, we are now at 95%. And that is reflected in the production numbers as well. But going forward, I can't really give you a very clear timeline of when 100% issue will be solved, because we do not have the visibility for semiconductor component availability beyond a few weeks in the future. So as we go along, we keep revising the estimates. On the profitability front, which you had mentioned, yes, commodity prices have been very high. In fact, when you compare it with 2 years back, they are still very high, even though you have seen some softening in the recent weeks. Like steel, which was 37 rupee a kg 2 years back, went up to 84, now around 60, 62, but still, very high compared with 37 per kg that you saw. Same with copper, going up from $5,500 to $10,400, now softened a little bit to about $9,300, but still quite high when you compare with $5,500 2 years back. Same stories there with aluminium as well. So while there is a softening in terms of the commodity prices, but still compared with 2 years back, still quite high. And that is another area where we are making a close watch on the trends in the commodity prices.
Is the crypto winter ending? $1 million question to which the answer may be yes. In a free fall since the beginning of this year, with the total global crypto market cap plunging from $2.3 trillion to 800 billion levels last month, there are signs of relief, with the figure again crossing the $1 trillion mark this month. Let's go across to Akanksha Ramchaturvedi for some answers. Akanksha, what are analysts saying? What's the outlook looking like for the crypto world?
The onset of August seems to bring some relief for the crypto markets. The global crypto market cap, which had fallen to $800 billion levels, has risen to $1 trillion. Moreover, the Bitcoin levels, which had fallen to $18,000, has also risen to $23,000. Ethereum is also up at 1,500 levels. The cryptocurrency market cap had been falling since the beginning of the year. Geopolitical tensions, an ongoing pandemic, and rising inflation rates had added to the woes of the crypto markets. The global crypto market cap fell from $2.3 trillion levels in January to 800 billion levels in July, down over 60%. Major cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum had also felt the brunt of this crash. However, it seems like the markets are recovering from this slump in the month of August.
Thank you for that, Akanksha. Now let's take a look at what else is making news in the corporate world. After seeing heavy selling for the past few days, Zomato saw a near 20% up move today. This comes on the back of its net loss coming down considerably in the first quarter. The food delivery giant's revenues during the quarter jumped 68% year-on-year. BharatPay's founder Bhavik Koladia has resigned from his position at the fintech company. This comes a few months after Ashneer Grover's exit. As per reports, Koladia's departure is due to a disagreement between him and the company. Godrej Properties Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer Mohit Malhotra has resigned the positions. Gaurav Pandey, CEO of North Zone, all set to take over from Malhotra now. SpiceJet, which has been in the eye of a storm of late, has cleared all outstanding principal dues of the Airport Authority of India. With this, SpiceJet will no longer remain on cash and carry at AAI-run airports. And that's where we leave it on the show tonight. Thanks so much for watching.